Mr. Vice Chairman, sir, as a basic human need, shelter comes next only to food and clothing. Even the early man discovered caves to seek shelter against the vagaries of nature. Today, with rising population, many of the developing countries have to cope with and suffer malnutrition, disease, illiteracy, and hunger. Yet it is the housing problem which seems to be the most intractable one. About one-fourth of the world's population is either houseless or lives in abysmally small, poor, and unhealthy environment. In India, sir, according to the 1981 census, 2 lakh urban households and another 4 lakh rural households have been without shelter. Taking into account the overcrowding and the awful congestion and the need to replace the kutcha houses and repair the degraded and dilapidated ones, the actual housing deficit is to the tune of 60 lakh in urban areas and 190 lakhs in rural areas. This deficit of housing is expected to rise to 40 millions by the year 2000 AD. Sir, 20 to 25% of the urban population in India lives in slums which lack or are totally without basic services. Another 20% of the urban population consists of households that are slum dwellers and live in single room units. Sir, this is the housing scenario in our country at the moment. In the early years of our planning with the weak economy that was inherited at the time of independence, housing was not on the top of national agenda. The first priority obviously was to provide food for the people. A massive national program and endeavor has resulted in self-sufficiency in food, and we can be legitimately proud of our industrial progress also. In the sphere of communications and health services, we have made major strides, and the government has also intervened to ensure that clothing is provided reasonably to people in the country. With a fair amount of success in the other spheres, the attention now has obviously to turn to housing and of course to education. In the last decade, quite a few schemes were promoted for encouraging housing activity. Conscious that housing is a crucial activity not only for providing vitality, important shelter, but also for improving the quality of life besides contributing significantly to the national income. Employment generation. Government has now come forth with this national housing policy. Sir, it brings me to the state of the capital market vis-a-vis the budget. I would have expected as a student of economics, given the budgetary dispensation, the capital market should have shown dispensation, the capital market should have shown some buoyancy. But it seems that optimism is not really evident so far as our investors and entrepreneurs are concerned. There are refreshing messages for the export-oriented industry. There are refreshing messages for a segment of the textile industry, particularly the artificial fiber sector. So far as the electronics sector is concerned, considerable relief has been provided. Some is tire for cement and for those who have involved in the production of electrical equipments. Yet the share market through these industries has not shown buoyancy. In addition, the venture capital fund setup has been revision for a better kind. Still further, the tax exemption has been provided to the dividend income by additional rupees 1000. But all these cumulatively should have added optimism so far as the capital market is concerned. Maybe what somebody called the investors or industrialists are characterized by the Oliver Twist syndrome. Fortunately for history, let it be recorded Oliver Twist needed money. I am not so sure, as my friend indicated, whether the same is true for our investors. At least all investors or industrialists need to shake off an element of excessively greed. Several things are good, but it is not making them happy. Something which is not there, or the lines which are there, could be a lot more, perhaps will make them happy. This is a part of human expectation, but from the macroeconomic point of view, one would have thought that what they have got, they should be grateful for in their own interest, if not the interest of the economy. There is a fear that there could be bearish conspiracy and manipulation of the stock market situation. Financial writers have written about it. If this is true, then the finance ministry should look into it. What is ailing the stock market or the capital market? Some reforms are underway, but perhaps much more needs to be looked into so that things begins to move better than what it is. Related to that is the question of extension of resource base. We have been talking about expansion of the tax base. We should be also talking about expansion of the investment base. The green revolution area has a liquidity. The disposable income of prosperous farmers level is good, but plugging that back through the equity channels, or rather through the other instruments of finance, remains a relatively neglected area. Stop.